Hey y'all, welcome to Pleiadian Point of View. I'm Peyton with Peyton Energetics, and I'm a Pleiadian channel. So in today's point of view, the Pleiadians wanted to talk to us a little bit about what we are seeing happen in the world around us. Because over these past couple of months, things have really gotten kind of messy and chaotic in the world around us. So the Pleiadians today wanted to help us shift our perspective on this. So they wanted to talk to us a little bit about what is happening energetically. What is really going on here? Because if you've been on your spiritual journey for a while, you've probably been hearing the guides and teachers telling us for several years now that the 3D world was going to be collapsing. I know I have heard people talking about this for at least 3 years now, about how everything was going to collapse as part of our ascension process. But I didn't totally know what that meant or what it was going to look like. But over these past couple of months, we have started to see what they mean. So as we are seeing what kind of looks like our world coming apart at the seams, the Pleiadians wanted to help us put this in a better perspective, to help us understand what is going on energetically. So as we look at what seems to be a lot of chaos and dysfunction in what we jokingly refer to as the 3D world, or that beautiful external reality we are sharing, what is actually happening is a result of our shift in consciousness. So according to the Pleiadians, as we, as a collective, are starting to break down our dense belief systems, those ones that we hold personally and also collectively, what happens is we see a shakeup in the world around us. Because as the P's like to tell us, we create it all. So everything we are seeing happening or existing in the world around us is our creation. So because our external reality is really just a creation or projection of our mind, when we start to change the mind, start to break down our belief systems, those belief systems that created the world that we see around us, we get a reflection of our world breaking down. So because the world around us, as we all know, we've heard all of our spiritual teachers tell us this, our world is just a reflection. It's really a creation of the mind. So as we start to break down the limiting beliefs that built our entire 3D reality, because of course, as humans, we could only experience third dimension and play the earth game if we created separation from who we truly were. So we created this very compelling game for ourselves to separate ourselves from our divine nature. That's what the 3D game is. It lets us play in the energy of separation, to play with things like lack and limitation and suffering, which don't really sound all that fun when we talk about it, but this was all great fun from the perspective of our higher selves. So because the mind is what enabled us to play the 3D game, because the mind is where we create and house all of our limiting beliefs, all of those templates that we collectively agreed to limit ourselves so that we could have this very unique 3D experience. It's all a creation of the mind. And so as we start to ascend and raise our collective vibration, we start to release many of these limiting beliefs, right? We start to remember that we're all one. We start to remember that we are divine, eternal beings. We start to remember that we're always supported infinitely by the universe. And as we start to let go of the limiting beliefs that we have always held, what happens is we get a reflection of that same breakdown in our external reality. Because that scaffolding of limiting beliefs, which held us in the 3D game, starts to break down. we start to let go of our limiting beliefs. And as we do that, the reflection we get from our world shows the same breakdown. So according to the Pleiadians, what they wanted us to understand and just start to play with as we look out at what's happening in the world around us is that the more we break down our limiting belief systems, the more we see some chaos and messiness in the world around us. Because as the mind breaks down its old scaffolding, which held up the 3D world with all of its lack and limitation, we see the same breakdown in our world, in our reflected reality. Because what is outside is just a reflection of what is going on in the mind. So what the Pleiadians are offering us in this week's point of view is when we look out at some of the craziness going on in the world, and it really can be a little alarming right now, right? It's easy to get sucked into a little bit of fear, a little bit of anger. But if we can pull back as we start to go down that slide and remind ourselves that what we are seeing melt down in the world around us is just evidence of how we are melting and breaking down our limiting beliefs. And it's only these limiting beliefs that keep us in 3D. So we have to break down the scaffolding of the mind in order to move into the fifth dimensional energies. And as we do that, because the world around us is just a projection of the mind, we see that reflection getting a bit shaken up. So rather than following our very natural human tendency to get sucked into the stories of what is happening around us, if we can just step back and just take a beat and remind ourselves, this is just evidence that we are breaking down the third dimension. And of course, things are going to look a little dramatic because we're making dramatic changes in the structure of our reality. And we're doing that by releasing our limiting beliefs, both on an individual level and on a collective level. So it's just a reflection. So when we start to think about it this way, it can take some of that despair out of the equation as we look at what's happening in the world. It can take some of that feeling of hopelessness away when we just realize that any sort of craziness we're seeing in the world around us is just proof of all the work we are doing as a collective to break down lack, limitation, separation. So the reason things look so nuts in the world around us right now is because we are breaking down the biggest planetary template. And that's just a fancy word that the Pleiadians like to say to mean planetary energies. Those collective energies that have kept us all in this very limiting experience that we know of as 3D. And so right now we're seeing a lot of drama in the world around us because we are breaking down the fundamental beliefs like separation that hold the 3D world together. We are breaking down the glue of 3D. And so, of course, we're going to see a little bit of breakdown in the world around us because, again, the world is just a reflection of our energy, and energy can always move and always be changed. So when we look at what is going on in the world and can stay neutral about it, because we realize it is just how we are processing and changing the structure of our reality, we can be a little more neutral about what's happening because we realize that it is just a sign of all the great changes that we're making as a collective, that we are breaking down the separation template. Everything that gives us headaches here on Earth stems from this template. So all of the lack, the limitation, the sickness, the war, the poverty, the injustice, it's all separation. And now that we are breaking down the planetary energy of separation, we're going to see a shakeup in the world around us. But it's just a reflection of our energy. So when we can stay neutral with what is going on, realize it is part of the process, and the more we can stay out of the mind, the easier we can move through this period of adjustment, which has been a little rocky lately. But the more we can stay out of the mind, the easier we will move through this. So one thing the Pleiadians have been encouraging us to do is to focus on our breathing, because when you do that, you drop out of the mind. And that is the key to moving through these energies comfortably, where none of the chaos really enters your life. So that is our goal as the Awakened community, is to move through these changing times as easily as possible. And the way we do that is to stay out of the mind. So that's what the Pleiadians wanted to share with us in this week's Point of View. A little guide to navigating some of the craziness going on around us. So let me know in the comments below, how are you handling these energies? They haven't been easy. So let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. I'll see you soon. Bye.